Hello guys, this is your friend Naruto Multiverse 2.0 and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Naruto was like Minato and mastered his secret jutsu part 2. Rolled over on his futon. The last 24 hours had been a blur to the blonde. Dealing with Geitu's samurai wannabe thugs, racing to Tezuna's bridge to catch up with the rest of his team, leapt into an enemy's jutsu to save Sasuke, see Sasuke seemingly killed, using the Kyuubi's chakra to break free and finding out that his opponent was Haku, seeing Haku killed by Kakashi-sensei, then Geitu showing up with his thugs. Zabuza then sacrificing himself to decimate Geitu's thugs and kill Geitu himself, and finally Sakura calling out that Sasuke was alive. However, instead of getting a restful sleep, Naruto's rest was bombarded by image that he had no memory of. He saw dozens of unfamiliar ninja in a barren, rocky wasteland. Somehow he knew that the Hitai-ates on the ninjas' foreheads were that of Aiwa. Whispers of Kiroi Senko filtered through his ears. The scene changed to a familiar training ground where he seemed to be sparring against a boy his own age but with gravity-defying silver hair with half his face hidden by a mask. Naruto thought that this kid looked like a chibi Kakashi. Is this the future? He thought. The dream changed once more to a sight that Naruto instantly recognized. He stood, overlooking the village, from the top of the Yondaime's head, and saw the Kyuubi wreaking havoc on the village. The massive demon fox looked up and spotted Naruto. In a voice unlike his own, Naruto said, "So you've spotted me already?" Naruto watched as the Kyuubi created a massive ball of chakra and fired it. The massive ball of chakra sped across the ground toward the Hokage monument, pulling a kunai from his pouch, LD it out in front of him. The Bijudama was suddenly sucked into a void that had appeared in front of Naruto. How? Naruto thought. The scene shifted once more and Naruto found himself in a very ornate temple wearing very fancy robes. Naruto looked up and felt his jaw drop. An extraordinarily beautiful red-headed woman with light violet eyes was walking down the aisle wearing a white kimono that offset her hair and tanned skin wonderfully. Do you Namikaze Minato take this woman, Uzumaki Kushina, to be your lawfully wedded wife? Naruto blinked. Who? And why does she have the same last name as me? The scene faded out again. This time Naruto was in a dark room, thought it was slightly illuminated by candles. From what Naruto could see, someone was sitting astride him. Flashes of red and cream could be made out as well as pants and moans could be heard. Oh Mina-kun, yes, that's it, a breathless female voice was heard above him. Kushina-chan, you're so beautiful, Naruto gasped as he felt a pressure build up in his stomach. I could barely think when I saw. Enough talking and do me. Kushina growled. Naruto felt something tighten around him. Something warm and wet. The pressure in his stomach flared. Oh Kushina, I'm coming. Naruto cried as he bucked his hips. Yes Mina-kun, do it inside me. Kushina wailed. Naruto gasped as he felt the pressure give way, and white-hot pleasure course through him. Naruto opened his eyes trying to rid himself of the final images, but the breathy moans and cries of this Kushina wouldn't go away. Blood gushed from his nose and splattered against the door while Naruto fell back into the welcoming embrace of unconsciousness. A moment later, the door opened to reveal a pink-haired girl wearing a red dress. She spotted Naruto lying on the futon, blood dripping from his nose and a lecherous grin on his face. Pervert, Sakura growled before slamming the door behind her. Equals 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 scene break equals 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 equals. The next morning Team 7 was all set to head back to Konoha. Of course, Inari was struggling not to cry as he wailed about losing his big brother. The townspeople had come to see them off as well, calling them a team of heroes. Kakashi, Sakura and Sasuke were quite surprised as the fact that when Tazuna announced the name of the completed bridge that Naruto hadn't started jumping and down and acting like a child. Instead, Naruto seemed to shrink in on himself, blushing furiously and looking down at the ground. It was most unlike the blonde hyperactive ninja that they knew. All right, you three, we better get going if we want to make it back to the village by nightfall, said Kakashi. Sasuke just grunted while Sakura looked on adorningly. Naruto nodded and turned away from the villagers. Naruto Ani, Inari shouted, causing Naruto to look over his shoulder. Don't worry about the village, I promise you that I'll become strong and protect it with both arms, the young boy declared before making the same gesture that his stepfather had. Naruto gave the younger boy a soft grin. I have faith in you, Inari. I know that you will keep your promise, the blonde said. I'll see you around, okay? Inari had to wipe his eyes quickly but gave Naruto a broad smile. Believe it, he cried. Naruto nodded before joining his team in setting off. As Team 7 leapt through the forest, Naruto's mind was racing. It seemed to be filled with memories that Naruto had no recollection of. He could see himself performing jutsus that Naruto certainly had no knowledge of. Looking up, Naruto had to blink rapidly. The image of a silver-haired boy wearing blue face mask and a sword strapped to his back wavered then vanished, being replaced by the back of Kakashi-sensei. Turning to his right, Naruto once again had to rub his eyes, as another hazy figure seemed to overlap over Sasuke. This boy was wearing a similar dark jumpsuit to Sasuke but had short hair and was wearing goggles much like Naruto used to. Obito, Naruto thought, though he had no clue where the name Obito came from. Naruto quickly turned toward his female teammate and closed his eyes tightly when instead of Sakura, he saw a dark-haired girl with two purple rectangles on her cheeks. Rin. Again, Naruto had no clue where the name Rin came from but he somehow recognized the figure. Naruto, what the hell are you doing? A sharp voice snapped out, drawing Naruto from his thoughts. Looking up, he saw Sakura glaring back at him. Hurry up, you idiot, or you're going to be left behind. Shaking his head, Naruto channeled some chakra into his legs and leapt off the branch that he had stopped on. He quickly caught up with his team and settled back into formation. However, every time he blinked, Naruto felt as if his hands were twitching to perform some sort of jutsu. In his head, Naruto somehow now knew the hand sign chains for all the jutsus: Shuriken Kage Bunshin, Kunai Kage Bunshin, Kurigakure no Jutsu, Sweden. Hahenryu, Mizu Bunshin no Jutsu, Sweden. Mizoripa, Raiden, Gain, Raiden, Jaibashi and several others. One jutsu that really stuck out in his memory was something called the Rasengan. Now that looks really kick, Naruto thought. Looking back ahead, Naruto pondered whether or not to tell Kakashi about this new knowledge, but then thought better of it. A feeling of disappointment welled up within Naruto, though the blonde had no clue as to why. Why should I? What really has Kakashi taught us? Aside from tree walking. A new string of memories flashed through Naruto's head. He saw a miniature Kakashi watching on as Obito and Rin struggled to perform the chakra control exercise. Alright, that's enough for today, you two, Naruto felt himself say. Now it's time for taijutsu practice. Obito and Rin leapt down from their trees and walked over to where Naruto and Kakashi were sitting. Hey Minato-sensei, can I fight Kakashi-tem today? I know that I can beat him. Obito asked. Naruto had to stifle a chuckle at the young Uchiha's excitement. Perhaps later, Obito, but first you and Kakashi will watch me and Rin-chan. All right, sensei, Obito whined. As if you could beat me anyway, Kakashi scoffed. What did you say? Obito shouted. Wow, Kakashi seemed to be just like Sasuke, such a bastard, Naruto thought. I mean, I know that I consider Sasuke a rival and I want to harass him, but I think our rivalry is a lot fiercer than Kakashi and Obito's. And it seems that their sensei actually paid attention to them, instead of reading porn and being 3 hours late. Look at our team and Kakashi's own. Sasuke is an arrogant brat who thinks that he is all that, even though I know that this mission was a wake-up call for him, no longer the big fish in the small pond. Sasuke, Naruto thought. Sakura is unfit to be a ninja at the moment, all she cares about is Sasuke. Rin was never like that, she might have had a crush on Kakashi but she focused on the mission first. Me and Obito are similar, that's for sure. And Kakashi-sensei isn't doing anything to change us, it's honestly a miracle that we survived that mission, Naruto thought. What have I been doing? I have just been expecting Kakashi to come to me with jutsus and training in easy ways to get stronger, not asking for his help. I need to get stronger and sitting back and waiting isn't going to make me get any stronger. Team 7 reached the village gates just as the sun was setting behind the Hokage monument. Naruto looked up and saw the 4 faces of the Hokage looking out over the village. That's the face of that Minato guy. But that's the 4th Hokage. Why in Kami's name am I seeing memories through the 4th Hokage's eyes? Come on you 3, the Hokage will want to see us, Kakashi said. Once we have been dismissed, we'll meet at Training Ground 7 the day after tomorrow. Team 7, welcome home, the 3rd Hokage said warmly as the group entered the Hokage's office. It seems that your mission went longer than you expected. How did you all enjoy your first C-rank mission? The room was awkwardly silent for a moment, as Hiruzen examined the 3 genin before him. Kakashi, your report. Hi Hokage-sama, Kakashi said. The mission to escort the bridge builder Tazuna was successful, but the client Tazuna lied about the details regarding the level of his mission request. Oh, explain, Hiruzen ordered. On our way to the border we were attacked by the missing nin duo known as the Demon Brothers, Kakashi said. I felt it wise to trick them into believing that they had ambushed us, to discover what their true objective was. Genin Uchiha was able to fend off the pair for a moment while I ascertained their target, then I returned to the group and took care of the pair. And their target was? Hiruzen asked, his voice deepening. Their target was the bridge builder Tazuna, Kakashi said. It seems that the CEO of the Getu Corporation, Getu Manji, had managed to put a stranglehold on the Wave Country. And he had hired ninja to eliminate Tazuna as the man's bridge, the only thing keeping Getu from having a true chokehold on the country. After discovering that Tazuna had lied to us about the mission parameters, I discussed the situation with my genin and then continued on with the mission. You decided to continue with a mission that was obviously outside of your genin's capabilities, Hiruzen snapped. Just the presence alone of the Demon Brothers brought the mission up to AB rank. I felt confident that I could handle what was coming, and all 3 of the genin decided to continue the mission, Kakashi said, though he could feel a bead of sweat beginning to trickle down his back at the heavy glare that his commander was giving him. Don't blame Kakashi-sensei Gigi, Naruto piped up. We all decided to keep going and help Tazuna-san. Be that as it may, Naruto, your sensei should have known better than to continue on, Hiruzen said sharply. Continue Hatake. Yes sir. As we reached the Wave Country, we found ourselves facing Zabuza Momochi. What? The aged Hokage's voice boomed out, causing the 3 genin to flinch and Kakashi to rub the back of his head sheepishly. With the help of genin Uzumaki and Uchiha, I was able to defeat Zabuza, though he was able to escape with the help of his apprentice who we thought was a Kiri hunter nin, Kakashi said. After recovering from chakra exhaustion, I then trained my team for a week, as I surmised that Zabuza would need at least a week to recover from his injuries. And what did you train Naruto, Sakura and Sasuke in? The Hokage asked. Tree climbing, Kakashi answered, knowing that the Hokage wouldn't be happy with that answer. And Kakashi was right. How long have you had your team, Kakashi? Hiruzen asked. 6 weeks, Kakashi answered. And you only just now have taught them tree walking, a basic chakra control exercise that all other genin know 2 weeks outside of the academy. What have you been teaching them, Kakashi? Teamwork and formations, Kakashi said. Hiruzen rubbed the bridge of his nose. Kakashi, we will be having a long discussion on your teaching methods, the Hokage said. But since you four have returned, I am to surmise that everything worked out in the end. Yes, Hokage-sama, Kakashi said. He then gave the rest of his report, leaving out Naruto's Kyuubi episode, though the Hokage knew that Kakashi was still leaving something out. Alright, Team 7, you are dismissed. Kakashi, stay behind, we will be having words, Hiruzen ordered. Sasuke and Sakura quickly left the office, Naruto trailing behind them. As he was leaving, Naruto looked up and saw the portraits of the former Hokage. The picture of the fourth Hokage caught Naruto's eye and made him freeze. Minato, I'm sorry I took up all your time, a pained female voice filled Naruto's ears. It's okay, Kushina. Naruto, listen to your motor mouth mother, a man's voice, weak and watery, added. Find a dream and don't stop until you've achieved it. We believe in you, son. Naruto, are you alright? Hiruzen asked. Naruto blinked. I'm okay, Gigi, Naruto answered. Just zoned out there. Kakashi-sensei, what was your sensei's name? He asked. Minato, Kakashi answered. Naruto nodded slowly as the pieces began to fall together. I will see you at training the day after tomorrow, Naruto said. Gigi. See you then, Naruto-kun, Kakashi said. The blonde nodded to the Hokage before leaving the office. Kakashi turned to the Hokage. Sir, during the battle on the bridge, Naruto managed to access its chakra, Kakashi said. How? It seems that during the battle, Sasuke took a hit that was meant for Naruto, and Naruto thought that Sasuke was dead and grew enraged, Kakashi said. And ever since waking up, Naruto has been different. Different? How? He has been quiet, and we have constantly had to regain his attention, Kakashi said. Is it possible that something happened to the seal? I do not know, I will recall Jiraiya, Hiruzen said. I wanted him to return in time for the Chunin exams. Oh, those are approaching quickly, Kakashi said. You do know that your team will be expected to compete, Hiruzen commented. And I might agree, this graduating class is made up nearly exclusively of clan heirs and it would look good for the village if they competed. Have you told the others? Kakashi asked. No, I am leaving the decision up to you three, but something is stirring in the leaves, the Hokage said as he packed his pipe and lit it with a Kaden jutsu. I fear that something is quickly approaching our village and it does not bode well for the will of fire. Train your team, Kakashi, for the next week, hard. I want them ready even if you do not nominate them. Hi, Kakashi said. By your leave, sir. Hiruzen nodded and Kakashi vanished in a puff of smoke. Equals 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 scene break equals 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 equals. Naruto arrived at the front door to his apartment as if on autopilot. Withdrawing the key from his kunai pouch, Naruto unlocked the door and let himself in. Absently flicking on the lights, Naruto trudged his way through the ramen containers and dirty clothes to his bedroom. I'll clean it up in the morning, Naruto thought. The blonde barely made it to his bed, shucking his jacket aside, before collapsing on the mattress and falling asleep. Where am I? Naruto asked out loud as he looked around his surroundings. He seemed to be in the bowels of an enormous sewer with a faulty drain system. He was standing in ankle-deep water. Naruto froze when a deep, rumbling chuckle echoed down the tunnel. Slowly Naruto made his way down the tunnel until he came upon a massive room with dozens of pipes leading up into a ceiling shrouded in darkness. So my jailer has finally deemed me worthy with his presence, a deep, dark voice boomed out from the shadows. Naruto shivered at the voice's malice-filled laugh. Naruto froze once more when he saw two massive red, silted eyes staring out of the darkness at him. Who are you? Naruto stammered. You know who I am, boy, the voice chuckled darkly. Where am I? Naruto asked. We are in your mindscape. Why am I here? I brought you here, boy. Wait, you are the Kyuubi. Naruto realized. Out of the gloom came the massive jaw and fangs of the Kyuubi no Kitsune. Why did you bring me here? And how did you? I brought you here because something has changed in this seal, the fox growled. Naruto looked up and saw that a large piece of paper with dozens of symbols written on it. Clang. Naruto leapt backward as the fox surged forward, slamming into the bars. The seal and bars glowed blue before the fox was pushed backward. Are you afraid, boy? You should be, because I will get out of this seal and devour you, the Kyuubi snarled. You killed my parents, didn't you? That's who that blonde and redhead I've been seeing in my dreams, memories or whatever, Naruto asked. Of course I did, that damnable fourth Hokage and that woman, the fox growled, malice dripping from his tone. They were your parents. Do you hate me? Yes, Naruto snarled. If it wasn't for you, my parents wouldn't be dead, I wouldn't be hated by nearly the entire village. If it wasn't for you. Do not blame me for your misery, boy, I smelled a chance for freedom when I was wrenched from your mother's cursed seal and I took it. If it wasn't for your damnable father or that man's Sharingan, I wouldn't be stuck inside you. You said something had changed with the seal, what did you mean? Naruto asked, filing away the fact that the Kyuubi mentioned the Sharingan as well as being sealed in his mother for later. I do not know, boy. The fox snarled, baring its fangs. I don't wish to know what goes on in you humans' head, but I no longer sense a pair of presences in the seal. I haven't since you called upon my chakra back in the wave. Whatever, fox, I hope I never see you again, Naruto growled. Now how the hell do I get out of here? It's your mind, brat, you control it, figure it out for yourself, the fox snarled. Naruto glared at the fox as it receded back into the shadows of the cage. Naruto slowly opened his eyes, and saw the worn darkened white ceiling of his bedroom. Robotically, Naruto rose from his bed, knowing that he wouldn't be able to get back to sleep. Pulling on a pair of sweats and a thin shirt, Naruto left his apartment and made his way to his favorite thinking spot, the top of the fourth Hokage's head. Naruto didn't met a single soul on his way to the Hokage monument and felt a sense of peace wash over him as he sat down on top of the fourth Hokage's head. Why? He whispered. Why did he pick me? Minato couldn't force another family to give up their child if he wasn't willing to do the same. Hiruzen's soft voice filled with regret answered Naruto's whispered question. Naruto turned to see the elder Kage watching him. Perhaps we should continue this talk in my office. Naruto nodded and stood up and walked over to the elder Kage. Hiruzen placed a hand on Naruto's shoulder and in a swirl of leaves, the pair vanished from the top of the monument. Why didn't you tell me? Naruto asked when the duo had returned to the Hokage's office. How? Hiruzen asked. How could I tell you that you were the son of the fourth Hokage? How was I supposed to tell you that your parents were two of the greatest heroes that this village has ever or will ever know? Your parents had many enemies both in and out of the village, and I decided that it would be safer for you that no one know your heritage. Do you have any idea how much pain you've caused me, Gigi? Naruto shouted. Thinking that my parents abandoned me. You would only tell me that they died fighting the fox, you were the only one in the entire village who said anything like that. Everyone else would just say that my parents abandoned me because I wasn't worthy of having parents. Naruto, who had tears streaming down his cheeks, looked up at his grandfather figure who had gone stock still and pale-faced in anger. The young blonde could feel the beginnings of Hiruzen's ki seeping out from the older man's control. Hiruzen noticed that Naruto had stopped screaming and was now looking slightly scared. With a deep breath, Hiruzen reined in his growing anger and turned back to the young blonde that was a grandson to him. Naruto-kun, I apologize, Hiruzen said. I know that you don't wish to hear that, but that is all I can do. Naruto wiped his eyes. I know, Gigi, he muttered. I know that you did as much as you could, but it is going to take me a long time before I can even think of forgiving you or the village for what you've all done to me. And I will never forget it either. The Sandaime Hokage felt his advanced age at the young blonde's words. I can understand why you feel that way, Naruto-kun, he said. If I was in your position, I don't think I would be able to stand up as well as you have. You are the strongest person I know, Naruto-kun. Your parents would be extremely proud of you right now. I am. Naruto nodded. Hey Gigi, do you have any idea what a chakra affinity is? That's quite an interesting change of subject, Naruto-kun, the Hokage chuckled. Why would you want to know about such an advanced subject? Normally one doesn't begin training in their affinity until they are at least a chunin. But Sasuke Tem can shoot those awesome fireballs and Kakashi-sensei has that sweet lightning hand thing. Hiruzen chuckled at the enthusiastic Naruto. Very well, Naruto-kun, he said. A person normally has a chakra element that they are naturally tuned toward. You know what the 5 elements are, correct? Naruto nodded. Hiruzen strode over to his desk and opened a drawer. What are you looking for? Naruto asked. Ah, here it is, Hiruzen said, standing up and showing Naruto what he was holding. It was a small piece of paper. What's that? This, Naruto-kun, is chakra paper, Hiruzen said. You just channel a small amount of chakra into it and it reveals your chakra affinity. If the paper gets set on fire, you have a Kaden affinity. If it gets wet, sweeten, crumbles, doden, splits, futon and crinkles, you have a Raiden affinity. Now of course that doesn't mean you can't learn jutsus that are not of your affinity, it just will be more difficult to learn those jutsus. Jutsus of your natural affinity will cost less chakra to use and will usually be more powerful. Do you understand? Naruto nodded rapidly, even though he already knew what Hiruzen had told him somehow. A voice in his head, not the fox's, had sprung up and explained the test. An unfamiliar face, a face that was framed by long white hair and had 2 red lines of makeup on his cheeks, appeared in Naruto's mind's eye with the voice. Go ahead, Naruto-kun, Hiruzen said, holding the piece of paper out for Naruto to take. The blonde did so and channeled a small amount of chakra. The paper spilt down the middle, one side turned wet while the other crinkled in on itself. 3 affinities. And at such a young age, Hiruzen thought. His father had Futon and Kushina-chan had Suiten, but for Naruto-kun to have both and Raiden as well is certainly a surprise. Well, Naruto-kun, congratulations, the Hokage said. You certainly are living up to your reputation of being the most unpredictable ninja. Hiruzen made his way back to his desk and opened another drawer and withdrew 3 scrolls. Here you are, Naruto-kun, Hiruzen said, handing over the 3 scrolls. What are these? The blonde asked. They are scrolls on elemental manipulation for your 3 affinities, Hiruzen said with a soft smile. They contain the exercises for Suiten, Raiden and Futon manipulation. I am sure that you will find them quite useful in learning to control your chakra. Thank you, Hokage-sama, Naruto said, cradling the 3 scrolls as if they were newborn babes. Now off to bed with you, Naruto-kun, Hiruzen said. You will need to get some sleep to recover your strength for tomorrow. I am sure that Kakashi will be quite surprised when he learns that you have 3 affinities. The Hokage must have noticed something in Naruto's face because he then asked. What's the matter, Naruto-kun? Kakashi-sensei hasn't really been paying attention to us. Well, me and Sakura-chan, he mainly focuses on Sasuke, Naruto admitted. Hiruzen's face grew hard. I will be having a discussion with Kakashi in the morning about his training methods, the Hokage said. I think when you meet with him tomorrow, he will have a different outlook when training you all. Naruto nodded. He tried to stifle a yawn but the aged Hokage caught it. Off to bed with you, Naruto-kun, Hiruzen chuckled warmly. Night, Gigi, Naruto said as he turned toward the door. Good night, Naruto-kun, Hiruzen said. When the door to his office closed, Hiruzen sat heavily down at his desk and leaned back. Minato, Kushina, you would be so proud of your son, he said. And you would also string me up by my toes for what I have done. I have failed your son, and I know that when I meet you two again you both will be taking out your pound of flesh. But I swear with all the life that is left in my body, I will see that Naruto will become the hero that you both knew that he would grow to become. Then perhaps Kushina-chan, you won't kill me again. Hiruzen shivered as a cold wind blew through the office. Equals 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 scene break equals 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 equals. Naruto arrived at training ground 7 just before the team's scheduled meeting time of 7 a.m. He knew that Kakashi would arrive at least 2 hours late, but Naruto couldn't fall back asleep, so he decided to just make his way to the training ground. Neither Sakura nor Sasuke were there when Naruto reached the training ground. He sat at the base of the same post that he had been tied to when they first became a team. Opening the futon scroll, Naruto began to read. Naruto, Naruto, Naruto. Sakura's voice slammed into Naruto's ears. Naruto jumped, landing on top of the post with a kunai drawn and raised. Blinking, he realized that Sakura and Sasuke were looking at him like he was nuts. What the hell, Sakura? Why'd you yell in my ear? You wouldn't answer me, baka, Sakura snapped. I've been calling your name for like a minute now, and you didn't answer. What are you reading? Nothing, just some jutsu scrolls, Naruto answered quickly. He gathered up the journal and sealed it back in Kushina's scroll. You were reading, Sasuke scoffed. I didn't know that a dobi like you could read. Naruto growled deeply and tightly gripped his kunai, wanting to slash the blade through Sasuke's chest. A ninja must always remain in control of their emotions, Naruto heard his father's voice whisper in his head. Don't get mad, get even, a second voice brought Naruto's head up. A grin crossed Naruto's mouth as he recognized his mother's voice, and how similar they seemed if she would say something like that. Stowing the kunai, Naruto stood up and stretched, groaning in relief as several bones, tendons and ligaments popped. Sakura turned away in disgust. Why are we even here if we know that Kakashi-sensei isn't going to be here for another 2 or so hours? Naruto asked. We don't know that, baka, Sakura snapped. We could show up late and Kakashi-sensei could be waiting for us. Who would have thought that Kakashi would have taken up Obito's excuses, Naruto thought. Come on, Sakura. Kakashi-sensei has never been on time for any of our meetings, aside from when we first left for the wave, Naruto said. Why don't we do some training while we wait? You're going to need all the training you can get, Dobi, Sasuke sneered. But I could use a warm-up. Let's see if you can even land a blow. Naruto breathed in deeply through his nose, trying to calm himself down as well as drown out Sakura's shouting out encouragement for Sasuke. Naruto saw Sasuke take the opening stance of his family's interceptor style. A hazy image floated in front of Sasuke, a boy Sasuke's age wearing a blue jumpsuit trimmed with orange and goggles with orange lenses and ear protectors. Sasuke noticed Naruto staring off into space and surged forward, fist raised to nail Naruto across the face. However, as Sasuke's fist rocketed toward Naruto's face, the blonde-hair boy's eyes snapped back to attention and his right hand came up and slapped Sasuke's fist aside. Sasuke's eyes widened in surprise as he struggled to keep his balance. He hadn't expected Naruto to block his opening salvo. Naruto slid behind Sasuke and aimed a strike at Sasuke's back. Sasuke used his forward momentum to plant his hands on the ground and then whipped his legs around in a spin kick. Naruto ducked under Sasuke's kick and used a sweep kick to knock Sasuke's arms out from under him. Sasuke rolled forward, landing on his feet and spinning around, eyes wide. Looks like the first point goes to me, Sasuke, Naruto said as he settled into a stance that he had never used, but it felt as natural as breathing. What stance is that? Sasuke asked. Not sure. Naruto shrugged. But it feels right if you can understand that. I'm sure that you practiced your family's katas enough that it became effortless. Sasuke nodded. He could easily relate to what Naruto was saying. He had always believed that in order to be successful as a ninja, you couldn't worry about remembering your katas or hand seals. So to combat this, Sasuke practiced endlessly on memorizing his family's taijutsu styles katas until he could perform them without even thinking. Naruto darted forward. Sasuke activated his Sharingan on reflex as he ducked under a punch from Naruto. The Uchiha heir launched his own punch at Naruto's midsection. He connected, but it wasn't the solid blow that Sasuke was hoping for. Naruto saw that he wasn't going to be able to dodge Sasuke's strike fully, so he angled his body so that instead of Sasuke's fist knocking him directly in the sternum, most likely a staggering blow, Sasuke's blow only clipped Naruto's side. It stung, but Naruto just shrugged the pain aside. Naruto stepped inside Sasuke's outstretched guard and landed several quick blows. None looked very strong, but Sasuke leapt backward, clutching his left arm and side, a frown marring his normally stoic face. How are you doing this? Sasuke demanded. I don't know, Naruto said. I'm just doing what comes naturally. What's going on here? A stern, yet somewhat amused voice asked from the edge of the sparring circle. So you decided to show up, Kakashi-sensei? Naruto quipped. And just when it was getting good. Kakashi-sensei, you're late, Sakura screamed, pointing a finger at the silver-haired man, who scratched the back of his head in an embarrassed fashion. Sorry, I had to stop and help an old lady take her groceries home, and then a black cat crossed my path, so I had to run twice around the village. You know, bad luck and all that, Kakashi said. Sasuke and Sakura groaned at the terrible excuse from Kakashi while Naruto chuckled warmly. Kakashi with Obito's personality, that's going to take some getting used to, Naruto thought. He shook his head, tossing aside his thoughts that were melding with his father's. Tu-san said that he would put some of his and Ka-san's chakra in the seal for some reason. I wonder if when I used the Kyuubi's chakra in Nami, the seal activated and something happened caused the seal to absorb their chakra into me. It would sort of explain why I was dreaming about my parents from their points of view, and how I have any idea what I'm talking about, Naruto thought. So Kakashi-sensei, what are we going to do today? Sakura asked. Not more D-rank missions, I hope. No, Kakashi said. Hokage-sama has decided to give our team a week off from missions since our last one was upgraded from AC rank to an A- rank. So today we will be expanding on what you were taught in Nami. Tree climbing? Naruto asked. Correct. But we already know how to climb trees with our chakra, Sakura whined. That might be true, but you haven't mastered it, Kakashi said. You have only mastered this exercise when you can stay attached to a vertical surface for 3 hours straight or are able to fight on a vertical surface without having to think about channeling chakra. So you three know the drill. Get to it. Sakura and Naruto groaned while Sasuke sneered, but the trio of genin made their way over to the group of trees that lined the sparring circle. Slowly, Naruto made his way up his tree, focusing on completing the exercise correctly rather than getting it done first. He knew that his amount of chakra dwarfed Sasuke's. Even Kakashi's chakra level was barely a third of Naruto's chakra level. Naruto was confident that he would outlast the other members of his team, so he solely focused on sticking to the tree upside down for as long as possible, as well as walking on a high branch. He figured that having the blood rush to your head was a good deterrent to concentrating, and made the exercise harder. Kakashi watched from his perch in a nearby tree. His cute little genin might think that he wasn't paying attention to them and only reading his Ika, but Kakashi was actually watching the team. When he arrived, only 20 minutes late, a new record, Kakashi was stunned to see that Naruto and Sasuke sparring. Well, maybe not that surprised at the fact that they were fighting, but that Naruto was winning was the surprise. As well as taijutsu stance that the blonde had been using, it looked like a cross between Minato sensei's style and Kushina sensei's style. But that was impossible. Naruto had only known about his parents for one night, hadn't he? Kakashi-sensei, I can't go on, Sakura whined as she leapt down from her tree. All right Sakura, take a 10-minute break but then you're going to do it again, Kakashi ordered much to the horror of the pink-haired Kunoichi. But. No buts Sakura, Kakashi said sharply. You have the smallest chakra reserves of any of the recent graduates, and the only way to increase those reserves is to exhaust them each day and push past your limits. The main reason you have such perfect chakra control is because you have so little chakra. Sakura began tearing up. Even her sensei thought she was weak. You're not weak Sakura, Kakashi interrupted her thought process. You just don't have the shinobi lineage that Naruto and Sasuke does. So you will have to work harder than them to gain more chakra. Having such exceptional chakra control is a boon for such a young shinobi. I think you'll be quite suited to genjutsu or medical ninjutsu, both of which require excellent chakra control. Who knows, perhaps you could become the next Tsunade of the Sannin. You really think so, sensei? Sakura gasped. She had read all about the legendary Senju Tsunade of the Sannin, granddaughter of the Shidaime Hokage, grandniece of the Nidaime Hokage, during the academy. But you are going to have to work extremely hard Sakura, Kakashi said. Hey Kakashi-sensei, is there something else I can do? Naruto asked. Kakashi looked up and nearly fell out of his tree. Naruto was alternating from walking upside down on a high branch and hanging by his hands from that same branch. Naruto, how the hell are you doing that? Sakura cried. Well, I know that I've got a whole bunch of chakra, Naruto explained. And I knew that I would get too bored just hanging around. Get it? The others groaned at the crappy pun. Everyone's a critic, but I was trying to come up with ways to make this exercise harder. And then I figured if I had to keep changing where I was channeling my chakra, it would force me to focus on controlling it and do it quickly. Kakashi looked at his blonde student. That's pretty clever, the silver-haired Jonin thought. By switching back and forth from channeling chakra to the soles of his feet and hands, he is splitting his concentration between two opposite places, which increases the difficulties of this exercise by quite a bit. Bravo Naruto. Well then Naruto, why don't follow me, Kakashi said. I think I have something that will keep you interested. Naruto released his hold on the branch and quickly fell to the ground, falling into a crouch as he landed to absorb the impact. Naruto jogged over to follow Kakashi, leaving Sakura looking confused and Sasuke fuming. So what now Kakashi-sensei? Naruto asked. Are you going to teach me a badass jutsu or something? Not quite, Kakashi chuckled. Despite the newfound maturity that Naruto seemed to possess, he was still Naruto. This next exercise is still a chakra-controlling one, it is the next step after tree walking. Water walking, right? Naruto asked. Kakashi looked at his student. How did you know that? He asked. I'm not sure, Naruto said with a faraway look. Inwardly, Naruto was cursing himself out. He didn't want anyone to know how he knew things that he had no business knowing. Naruto wanted an edge over his enemies. I think I saw some Jonin teaching his team a couple years ago, and I remembered you were walking on water during your fight against Zabuza. Kakashi nodded, his curiosity sated but not satisfied. Naruto was displaying a maturity and perceptiveness that he hadn't shown in the academy nor in the last few months as a member of Team 7. Yes, my cute genin, Kakashi chuckled. Water walking is much harder than tree walking, though the principles are pretty much the same. Water walking forces you to channel a constant amount of chakra to force a hardening of the water under your feet in order to stand on it, instead of channeling a fixed amount of chakra to stick to the tree. Think you are up to it? Of course Kakashi-sensei, Naruto cried. Believe it, I'll have this mastered in no time. Well then, I'll leave you to it, Kakashi grinned. Yosh. Naruto saluted. Kakashi vanished in a puff of smoke as Naruto turned to face his new enemy, the lake that bordered Training Ground 7. Kakashi-sensei, where's Naruto? Sakura asked when Kakashi returned to the clearing. He's over at the lake working on the next exercise, Kakashi said. Once you two have mastered this one, You'll join him. How did Naruto manage to master this? Sasuke growled. He didn't like the fact that the Dobi was catching up to him. He was the rookie of the year, the strongest of their class, and yet Naruto was working on an exercise that he wasn't. Gritting his teeth, Sasuke glared up at the tree and returned to the exercise. The week after Team 7's return from the wave, the three genin of Naruto, Sakura and Sasuke saw a marked change in their sensei. Kakashi was actually training them, and quite successfully. Sakura and Sasuke had mastered the tree walking exercise and had moved on to the water walking exercise. Both Sasuke and Sakura were glad to be catching up with Naruto, even though they were both stunned and a bit angry that the class Dobi was now in front of them. Meanwhile, Naruto was learning at a far faster rate than the other two. He had progressed enough in water walking to be able to stand on top of the lake and was working on running across the lake's surface while some of his clones caused waves to ripple across the lake. Kakashi was greatly impressed at the progress that his students were making. It seemed that Sakura and Naruto were starting to take being a ninja seriously. Kakashi knew that Sasuke had lost much of his innocence during that fateful night 6 years ago, and Naruto had very truly had a childhood with the way he had been treated and had had to grow up much quicker than anyone aside from Sasuke, even if he didn't act like it. When not training with his teammates, Naruto was training himself. One memory from his parents had stood out from many of the others. He had discovered the secret behind the Kage Bunshin, when a clone was dispelled. Its memories were transferred back to the creator. He had seen Minato and Kushina both using the technique to train. Kushina was able to abuse the idea much more frequently because of her being the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi. Naruto used the Kage Bunshin training method to quickly learn the basics of elemental manipulation for all three of his elements. Cutting a leaf with his chakra came the quickest to Naruto, withdrawing the water from a wet towel coming second, and then creating a spark with his chakra was the most difficult exercise. All right, you three, that's enough for today, Kakashi called out as the genin of Team 7 kept practicing the water walking exercise, though now all three had progressed far enough to be walking on a moving stream. I have to go to a meeting with the Hokage, so we're done for the day. Today was our last day of leave, so tomorrow we will begin missions again. Later, the silver-haired Jonin vanished in a puff of smoke, leaving the three panting genin staring at the spot. Why would the Hokage need to meet with Kakashi-sensei? Sakura asked. He's probably still on the old man's bad side from letting us continue on the wave mission, Naruto said. In hindsight, we all got really lucky that none of us were truly seriously injured. How can you say that, Naruto? Sakura cried. Sasuke-kun was nearly killed by that Haku boy, and Kakashi-sensei got really hurt fighting Zabuza. Yes, but if Kakashi-sensei had just turned down Tazuna's plea, neither of them would have gotten hurt, Naruto pointed out. I wanted to help out Tazuna as much as anyone, but we weren't ready for that type of a mission and got really lucky. Sakura and Sasuke both didn't want to admit, but they knew that Naruto was right. They had gotten exceedingly lucky that they had survived the mission to the wave. Equals 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 scene break equals 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 equals. So good of you to join us, Kakashi, Hiruzen said as the silver-haired Jonin arrived at the meeting. Of course, sir, Kakashi said, falling into line with his fellow Jonin. As you all probably already know, but that time is quickly approaching, Hiruzen said. The Chunin selection exams are now upon us, and I will open the floor to any sensei whose team that has completed at least 10 missions to compete for their nominations. The Jonin who had been senseis for years stepped forward and nominated their teams. Then it came time for the newer Jonin senseis. I made a guy nominate my team of Rock Lee, Neji Hyuga and Tenten, under my name for the Chunin selection exams, Guy announced, his face set in stone. I, Asuma Sarutobi, nominate my Genin team of Shikamaru Nara, Shoji Akamichi and Ino Yamanaka, under my name for the Chunin selection exams, Asuma said, his mouth conspicuously free of cigarettes. I, Kurenai Yuhi, nominate my Genin team of Hinata Hyuga, Shino Aburame and Kiba Inazaka, under my name for the Chunin selection exams, Kurenai said, her face set. I, Kakashi Hatake, nominate my Genin team of Sasuke Uchiha, Sakura Haruno and Naruto Uzumaki, under my name for the Chunin selection exams, Kakashi said, his book nowhere in sight. All three of them, a voice whispered from the back of the room. Now hold on, Iruka said from the side of the room. Lord Hokage, all 9 of the rookie genin were my students at the academy, and while they are all very talented, none of them are ready for these exams. Please, you must stop. Iruka, Kakashi's voice snapped out, causing the academy instructor to stiffen. That wasn't the voice of the normal laid-back Kakashi, it was the former Anbu captain Kakashi who spoke. These genin are no longer your students, they are our soldiers and we believe that they are ready for these exams. Perhaps you don't have faith in their abilities, but we do, or we would not have nominated them. Iruka flinched at Kakashi's rebuke. He opened his mouth to retort, but a raised hand from the Hokage stalled his continued protest. That is enough, Hiruzen said coolly. If Kakashi, Kurenai and Asuma believe that their students are ready for the exams, I will not stop them from nominating them. The exams will begin in 1 week's time. I trust you all will inform your students in enough time for them to make their own decisions. Kakashi, Kurenai and Asuma nodded. Good, you are all dismissed. Though Kakashi, would you mind staying for a brief moment? As the Jonin filed out of the conference room, Kakashi kept his eyes fixed on his commander as his comrades walked past him. Once the final Jonin had left, being Iruka, and closed the door. What can I do for you, Lord Hokage? Kakashi asked, bowing before the aged man. I see you have taken my advice to heart, Kakashi-kun, Hiruzen chuckled. The reports of your team's training have borne quite a bit of fruit. Kakashi rubbed the back of his head in an embarrassed fashion. I apologize, sir, for not putting my full effort into training my team. I know that Minato-sensei would have been ashamed of my attitude toward my students. I can only surmise that because I was so advanced by the time I graduated, I didn't pay attention to what Minato-sensei taught Obito and Rin. Hiruzen nodded at Kakashi's reason. Kakashi had graduated from the academy when he was 5, and had become a Jonin at 13 while under the command of Minato. It wasn't until the tragedy of Kanobi Bridge that Kakashi had broken out of his cold, nearly Danzo-like ninja mentality. Hiruzen only wished that it hadn't cost Obito Uchiha his life for Kakashi to begin to open up his heart that had been locked up since his father had taken his own life. And now, I think I truly understand why Minato-sensei always felt that teaching young ninja was the greatest gift a shinobi could do, Kakashi said. Seeing those 3 learning so quickly and getting stronger, it really is, Hiruzen nodded, seeing the proud expression on the masked ninja's face. I do, Kakashi-kun, I truly do, the Hokage said with a smile as he thought back to his own students. By your leave, sir, I believe I have a training regime to come up with to make sure that my brats are up to scratch, Kakashi said. The Hokage nodded and watched the silver-haired man leave his office in a puff of smoke. Equals 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 scene break equals 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 It had been a week since Kakashi had given Team 7 the news that he had entered them in the Chunin exams. He had given them the last 2 days before the exams off in order to prepare. Naruto had spent the time reviewing his parents' memories of the exams. He was comforted by the fact that both Minato and Kushina hadn't passed their first Chunin exam. Actually, for Kushina it took 3 tries, Minato passed on his second attempt. But they always reached the third stage, so Naruto promised himself that he would give him the chance to be promoted by making it to the third exam no matter what. Naruto rolled out of bed the morning of the first exam, feeling nervous yet excited. He knew what was coming. In all of his parents' memories, the first exam had always featured some sort of intelligence-gathering test. Usually Konoha did this by forcing the genin to take a written test that had answers that no normal genin could answer, followed by a do-or-die question that was the true meaning behind the test. Opening his closet, Naruto sighed as he took his unusual outfit of the bright orange jumpsuit. Everyone belittled him for wearing such a non-ninja outfit, but they didn't think about why he wore it. The outfit was the only thing that he had, the only thing that the shopkeepers of Konoha allowed him to buy. A wave of anger flowed over Naruto at the thought of his tormentors, hypocrites, he thought savagely. Two-san wanted me to be known as a hero, and yet these people spit on his final wishes even though they praise him for being one of the most powerful shinobi of all time alongside the Shadaime. Pushing aside his thoughts of revenge, that would only prove to them that I am what they fear, Naruto muttered to himself. In the back of Naruto's closet was his new outfit. He had taken inspiration from his father's childhood outfit. Over the previous week, Naruto, under a disguise, had gone into several different stores to purchase his new clothes. His advanced henge had fooled the civilian shopkeepers easily, and Naruto was able to purchase his supplies without incident and without the inflated prices that the shopkeepers liked to push onto him. The only store that Naruto never used a henge to shop at was the shinobi supply store that was run by a retired shinobi. The owner of the store never overpriced Naruto, never chased him out of the store, and always answered any of Naruto's questions. "There you Naruto baka!" Sakura shouted as Naruto leapt down from a tree overhanging the path leading to the academy. "You were supposed to be here 20 minutes ago." Sakura blinked for a moment as she took in Naruto's new outfit. Gone was the bright orange jumpsuit. In its place was a much more subdued, ninja-like outfit. A forest green sleeveless hoodie covered a dark orange long-sleeved shirt with black Anbu-style pants and sandals. Even Naruto's hair was different. It was longer and shaggier, with 2 bangs hanging down even with his eyes. "What?" Naruto asked sharply. "What are you wearing?" Sakura asked. "I thought it was time for a change," Naruto shrugged. "Our mission to Nami opened my eyes to the realities of this world. I need to start taking this seriously or I'll be killed easily." Sasuke and Sakura blinked at Naruto's answer. Where is the blonde baka that would always shout out that he was going to become Hokage? He actually seems cool, Sakura thought. He has to be trying to copy Sasuke-kun. Cha! A voice shouted in Sakura's head. Looks like the Dobi is getting his act together, Sasuke thought as he nodded to his blonde teammate. "Baka! Stop trying to act like Sasuke-kun," Sakura shouted. "You'll never do as cool as Sasuke-kun. Did I say anything at all about trying to be like Sasuke?" Naruto asked quietly as he looked at Sakura with a hard look. "Everyone kept making fun of me because of what I was wearing, saying it wasn't shinobi-like, and now when I start taking this seriously, you're yelling at me. Perhaps you should take a look in the mirror. A red dress and pink hair aren't the most conspicuous outfit for being a ninja." Sakura looked like Naruto had just slapped her while Sasuke was grinning slightly. Who knew the Dobi could stand up for himself? The Banshee needed that wake-up call, the Uchiha heir thought. "Come on you two," Sasuke barked as Sakura's eyes began to tear up. "We don't want to be late." Naruto nodded. He and Sakura turned to follow Sasuke into the academy. Naruto chanced to look back at his female teammate and saw her trying to hold back tears. Naruto felt his chest tighten and sighed. "Look Sakura, I'm sorry about snapping at you, but you know that I'm right," Naruto said. You always told me that I needed to start taking being a ninja seriously and that wearing orange is a terrible color for being a shinobi. And then when I do change my clothes, you start yelling at me again. Look at your own clothes, bright red is almost as bad as orange. You can't be blind to your own faults, Sakura. Mine was my hyperactiveness and my attitude toward being a shinobi. I've tried to counter that, but it's a work in progress. Kakashi-sensei said that you had the smallest chakra reserves on the team, and for the last 2 weeks you've been working on growing them and it shows. I know that you come from a civilian family, and you want to wear your clan's symbol and that's fine. But if you're going to berate me for my clothes, take a look at your own. Sakura looked down at the ground. Naruto's lecturing me. Who does he think he is? She thought angrily. But is he wrong? Inner Sakura commented. During the academy we would also yell at Naruto for wearing that hideous orange jumpsuit, and now when he changes, we yell at him again even when he did what we said to do. Sakura blinked. I never thought that you would be the voice of reason, she thought. Naruto breathed a sigh of relief when he saw Sakura's face change from one of anger to confusion to acceptance. Come on, Sakura, he said. We better get moving before Sasuke decides to pull that massive stick out of his and beats us over the head with it. Sakura giggled and nodded. The pair raced down the path to catch up with their other teammate who was waiting for them at the entrance to the academy. Team 7 made their way inside the academy and turned toward the staircase to take them to the 3rd floor. Naruto narrowed his eyes as they came upon a group of ninja from all over trying to get inside the classroom but were being blocked by 2 older-looking genin. Something is going on, Naruto thought. There's no way that we are on the 3rd floor, we only went up 1 set of stairs, genjutsu. They must be trying to weed out some of the competition by having a pre-test of sorts. This must be new since neither Ka-san or Tu-san's memories have anything like this. Release this pathetic genjutsu and let us pass, Sasuke barked, causing Naruto to slap his hand to his forehead. Oh, so you noticed the genjutsu, one of the older genin smirked. In a puff of smoke, the pair changed their appearance to revel Kamizuki Izumo and Hagane Katetsu, the Chunin duo that were always doing gate duty. Looks like we've got some exceptional candidates, Izumo said, causing several of the genin to grin. But if you think just because you were able to see such a weak genjutsu, you'll be able to become Chunin, then you're going to get eaten alive during these exams. They are no joke. Chunin are team leaders, and they are expected to lead genin teams on dangerous missions that could cost people their lives. If you think that you'll just breeze through these exams, you've got another thing coming. People die in these exams. Have fun. Katetsu grinned before the pair vanished in a puff of smoke. Come on, Sasuke ordered. Naruto and Sakura jogged after Sasuke. You shouldn't have said anything, Sasuke, Naruto whispered. You saw how many people didn't even realize the genjutsu, the competition would have been so much less. Coward, Sasuke grunted. And here I thought that you were getting stronger, don't you want to fight? Not if I can help it, Naruto said, ignoring Sasuke's coward comment. And if those teams couldn't see the genjutsu, then they wouldn't have been any real threat. The teams that easily made it past the genjutsu are the ones that we need to keep an eye on. Sasuke snorted. Uchiha Sasuke. A loud voice interrupted Team 7's musing. They turned to see a fellow Konoha genin who was wearing the most outlandish outfit they had ever seen, and that was saying something coming from the team that had a boy who would only wear a bright orange jumpsuit and a girl with pink hair and a red battle dress. A green spandex jumpsuit covered the boy head to toe with dimmer orange leg warmers, bandages wrapped around his wrists and forearms along with his Konoha forehead protector around his waist as a belt. I wish to challenge you. I want to see the so-called Rookie of the Year, the Uchiha Genius. Sasuke snorted. Please, he grunted. You wouldn't even be a challenge for someone like me. I am the strongest genin in Konoha, the boy said. Let's see how you measure up, Uchiha Genius. You know my name, what's yours? Sasuke asked. I am Rock Lee, Lee said with a thumbs up. Lee's large eyes cut to Sakura. You must be Haruno Sakura. I promise to protect you with my life. Will you go out with me? Hell no. Sakura cried, causing Lee's head to drop. Don't mind her, Lee, Naruto said. Sakura is the type of girl who goes for the cool-looking guy with the large stick up his and treats her like trash. Women are very interesting creatures. Men can spend all their lives trying to understand them but will never gain more than a passing gleam. Sakura and Sasuke blinked at Naruto's put-down of both of them. I see. No matter, Lee said. I still wish to test myself against the Rookie of the Year, the Uchiha genius Uchiha Sasuke. So then, Sasuke, will you accept my challenge? Sasuke, don't do it, Naruto warned. We're going to be late if we don't go now. I'm sure you'll get your chance to fight him during the exams. Don't let your pride get you into a situation that you can't cash. Sasuke's head whirled around to glare at Naruto, his Sharingan spinning rapidly. Sasuke-kun, Naruto is right, Sakura said softly. We need to keep going. TCH, fine, Sasuke grunted. He turned back to Lee. You got lucky this time, next time you won't be so. Lee grinned. We shall see Uchiha Sasuke, until next time then, he said before vanishing in a blur. Naruto blinked as he didn't see any smoke or leaves that usually mark the use of a shunshin. If Lee hadn't used any materials to mask his jutsu, that meant one of two things: that Lee was advanced enough in the jutsu to not need it, or that wasn't a shunshin. The second option was much more worrisome for Naruto. Sasuke-kun, a grating female voice cried out as Team 7 made their way into room 301. There you are. Back off, Ino pig, Sakura growled as a long blonde-haired girl glopped onto Sasuke's back. Naruto had to stifle a snigger at the constipated look on Sasuke's face. Come to think of it, that expression was always on Sasuke's face. So the whole gang is here, Naruto heard Kiba's voice bark out. Naruto turned to see the rest of his graduating class slip out of the crowd and walk over. Hey Forehead, where's that baka of a teammate of yours, Naruto? Ino asked once Sasuke had thrown her off his back. Hey there cutie, I'm Yamanaka Ino, what's your name? She asked. Sakura and Sasuke looked at one another, then to Naruto, before bursting out laughing. What are you laughing at, Forehead? Ino frowned. The rest of the rookies were stunned to see that Sasuke was laughing, let alone smiling. Ino, that's Naruto, Sakura gasped, clutching her stomach. What? The rookies cried as Naruto lowered his hood to reveal his blonde hair and whiskered face. Naruto. Ino cried as her face bloomed spectacularly. What are you wearing? My clothes, Naruto said with a blank face. You know, if I had known that all I had to do to get your attention was change my clothes, I would have done it years ago. Hey Sasuke, maybe if you want to get rid of your fangirls, you should wear my old jumpsuit. That thing was like a fangirl defense. I couldn't even get a girl to talk to me when I was wearing it. Sasuke's eyes gleamed for a moment. You know you should keep it down, a smooth voice said from behind the rookies. Naruto turned around to see a tall youth with gray hair and large circular glasses. Who are you? Kiba snapped. Kabuto Yakushi, the boy answered. And you are all just rookie genin, you might want to keep a lower profile. Most of these genin have been in the Chunin exams before, so they won't appreciate rookies making them look bad. And yet you are now announcing our statuses to the entire room, Naruto said. Something about this boy was raising his hackles. Only members of Konoha would know that we are rookies, if you hadn't said anything. Ma, Kabuto said, waving off Naruto's accusation. So how many times have you taken the exams? Ino asked. This will be the 7th time, Kabuto said with an embarrassed grin. Wow, you must suck, Kiba laughed. Or the exams are much more difficult than you think, Shino said. So then Kabuto, if you've taken the exams so many times, you must know some tricks or shortcuts that we could use. Naruto asked. I mean, we're all Konoha shinobi, and Konoha shinobi help each other out. Well, there aren't any shortcuts or things like that I can give you. The exams change every year and each village has their own way of doing the exams, Kabuto said. But I do have my nin info cards. Nin info cards? Sasuke asked. He too was getting an uneasy feeling coming from the gray-haired youth. Kabuto grinned at the Uchiha heir before pulling out a deck of what looked like playing cards. He pulled one out of the deck and channeled some chakra into it. They're blank unless I channel some of my chakra into them, Kabuto said. Uchiha Sasuke, Genin, graduated top of his class. A member of Team 7 with Naruto Uzumaki, the Dobi, and Sakura Haruno, the top kunoichi, under the tutelage of Kakashi Hatake. Mission stats: 15D rank, 0C rank, 0B rank and 1A rank mission in which he and Team 7 fought and defeated the Demon Brothers as well as Momochi Zabuza, the Kurigakure no Kijin. Known to have exceptional taijutsu and ninjutsu abilities, including several Kaiden jutsus that his clan was well known for, above-average genjutsu, also activated his Uchiha bloodline, the Sharingan, during his mission to Nami no Kuni. Your team went on an A-rank mission. Ino cried. What the hell, forehead? Naruto and Sasuke narrowed their eyes at Kabuto. There should be no way that Kabuto could know all of that just from their ninja profiles. The Hokage had decreed that Team 7's mission to name an A-rank mission but had classified their reports. What about Naruto? Let's hear all about the Dobi, Kiba laughed. Kabuto grinned as he pulled out another card. Naruto Uzumaki, Genin, failed the graduation exam 3 times before passing the special secondary exam. A member of Team 7 with Sasuke Uchiha and Sakura Haruno under Kakashi Hatake. Mission stats: 15D ranks, 0C ranks, 1B rank and 1A rank. Known to have below average taijutsu, non-existent genjutsu and average ninjutsu. There is a special note though. Apparently Naruto knows the B-rank Kinjutsu Kage Bunshin no Jutsu and its A-rank counterpart, the Taju Kage Bunshin. Naruto also has an immense amount of chakra, comparable to high Jonin levels. What? The rookies cried, spinning their heads toward Naruto, who was glaring at Kabuto. There was no way that anyone could have known about Naruto's B rank, which Hiruzen awarded him after helping stop Mizuki the night of the graduation exam. Hiruzen had classified that report as well. In fact, it wasn't even listed on his shinobi registration. Well then, Kabuto, since you were kind enough to tell everyone mine and Sasuke's stats, why don't you tell us yours? I mean, it's only fair, Naruto said sharply, his voice dropping several degrees. Kabuto arched an eyebrow but shrugged. Kabuto Yakushi, Genin, graduated 5 years ago in the middle of my class. I am teammates with Yoroi Akado and Masumi Tsurugi. Mission stats: 145D ranks, 12C ranks, 1B ranks and 0A ranks. My taijutsu is average, ninjutsu above average and genjutsu below average. Well, there you have it, Kabuto said. Naruto grinned and nodded in thanks. He's lying through his teeth, Naruto thought. He just gave the bare minimum to his stats while give out Sasuke's full stats and mine as well. Going to have to keep an eye on him. And looks like Sasuke has the same idea. Do you have any idea how we should look out for? Like non-Konoha teams? Sasuke asked. Kabuto smiled down at the Uchiha heir. It seems that most of the villages sent their best, Kabuto said. I would definitely keep an eye on the Suna team of Gaara, Tamari and Kankuro. They are the Kage's children, so you know that they are skilled. Also, the new village of Odogakure no Sato is participating in their first Shunin exams, so their team should be interesting to pay attention to, though it is a brand new village, so more likely they are weak. Out of the corner of his eye, Naruto spotted 3 genin stiffen at Kabuto's words. The 3 genin all had a musical note etched on their hitai atesh and were wearing similar uniforms with black and gray camouflage pants and dark flak jackets. Oh, so we're weak, are we? The bandaged genin said, turning to his teammates. Why don't we show these tree huggers the strength of Odo? The other 2 genin grinned wickedly before vanishing in a burst of speed. Naruto noticed the disappearance of the Odo genin and palmed a kunai. Shoving Kabuto to the floor, Naruto brought his kunai up to block the punch from the bandaged Odo genin. The blonde saw the bandages around the boy's mouth twist in what was most likely a smile, and suddenly Naruto felt a massive pain strike his head, causing him to drop his kunai and clutch the side of his head. You shouldn't underestimate the genin of the sound. We'll be the ones becoming chunin in these exams, the boy sneered. You know, for someone trying to become a chunin, attacking a member of the host village's ninja force when you are surrounded by his comrades isn't a very smart thing to do, Sasuke growled as he, Sakura and several of the other rookies surrounded the Oto genin, weapons drawn and ready to pounce. Shikamaru was kneeling behind the wall of genin, his hands in the rat symbol, and the Oto genin couldn't move. All right, you brats, a voice boomed out as an explosion of smoke covered the entire front of the room. Listen up or you'll be thrown out, and that goes for everyone. Everyone take a number and find your seat. A masked chunin came around the room and handed out tiles with numbers written on them. Naruto's tile had the number 68 on it, Sasuke had 24 while Sakura had 107. Naruto sat down at his assigned seat and was stunned to see that Hinata was seated next to him. Hey Hinata, Naruto said, watching as the Hyuga blushed madly. Hello Naruto-kun, she stammered, twiddling her fingers. Good luck. You too, Naruto answered. Quiet you maggots, the proctor roared. I am Morino Ibiki, the first exam proctor and your worst nightmare. Now everyone pay attention because I'm only explaining the rules once. Ibiki went on to explain the rules to the first exam. Naruto hid a grin as the memories of his parents' chunin exam experiences came to the forefront of his mind. It seemed that in the last 20 years, the first exam hadn't changed very much, it was still a written test. Several chunin passed out the sheets of paper for the test. You have 1 hour to complete this test, Ibiki barked. The 10th and final question will be given out when there is only 15 minutes left of the test. And begin. Naruto flipped over the test and quickly scanned each of the questions and grinned. None of these questions could be answered by normal genin, they were easily chunin or jonin level questions. For the next 40 minutes Naruto answered 5 of the 9 questions, giving only the bare minimum for a correct answer. He didn't want to expose his increased intelligence just yet, and also in case he was wrong about the final question he didn't want to fail. All right, pencils down, Ibiki ordered. It's now time for the final questions. The assembled genin sat a little straighter in their seats. However, there is another rule that I forgot to mention at the beginning. You can't do that, Akiri genin yelled, getting to his feet. Silence, Ibiki roared. I'm the master of this exam, I can change the rules anytime I want. If you don't sit down right now, you'll be thrown out along with your team. The Kiri genin glared back at Ibiki but sat down. I thought so. Now the final rule is simple. You all have to decide on whether to take the final question or not. What do you mean? Naruto asked. Of course we want to take the final question, what kind of stupid rule is that? Well, you didn't let me finish Gaki, Ibiki growled. If you choose to take the question, and get it wrong, you fail, your team fails and you will be barred from taking the chunin exams ever again. Uproar met this announcement. What? You can't do that. People here have taken the exams before, Kiba shouted. That's too bad, they didn't have me as proctor, Ibiki shrugged. So what are all your decisions? You can choose to not take the question, fail, cause your team to fail as well, but you will be able to take the exams next time, or do you risk it? Naruto sat down in his seat, eyes narrowed as he watched several teams struggle with the decision. After 10 minutes, 12 more teams had been eliminated. Naruto looked behind him to see Sakura looking at him beseechingly, almost asking him to give up. Naruto snorted and shook his head, telling her that he wasn't going to give up. Sakura blinked at her blonde teammate, as memories of him crying out that he was going to become Hokage. She knew that Naruto had improved drastically since their return from Nami, but there was no way he could answer any of these questions, let alone what was coming. I'm sorry Naruto, Sasuke-kun, but I can't let you, she thought as she began to raise her hand. That's enough, Scarhead, Naruto shouted, slamming his hand on the desk, causing Hinata to jump in fright. Enough of your pathetic mind fucks. Take them back to the academy where they belong. We're ninja. Making decisions without correct information is risk that we all take every day. If we're not prepared to risk our lives, then we shouldn't be shinobi. I don't know about the others here, but I sure as hell ain't a coward. Ibiki glared at the blonde Gaki staring him down, though inwardly he was laughing at the boy's guts. You were right, Hokage-sama. Uzumaki is one tough nut to crack, Ibiki thought. Just 3 sentences was enough to knock all the doubts from everyone else's minds. Looks like that's all we're going to get. He looked at the gathered Chunin, and when they nodded back to him, Ibiki's wide face broke into a smile. You pass, he said. What? The majority of the assembled genin cried. What about the 10th question? Sakura asked. The decision to take the 10th question was actually the 10th question, Ibiki said. As the blonde Gaki said, there will be times in your careers that you are asked to make decisions without all the information. Now do you say no and decline the mission? Hell no. There will be times in which you can't decline a mission, and you are thrown into the thick of it. You will have to make decisions that could cost you or your teammates lives, but you must steel yourselves for that reality. There will be times that you have to make life or death decisions, and you can't back out in the middle of a mission just because you are scared. If you do, then you're a scum and a coward. Suddenly the windows to the classroom shattered as a large bundle of black cloth filled the front of the room, revealing a banner with a very attractive purple-haired young woman standing in front of it. What the hell, Ibiki? There's still 25 teams here, Anko cried. Well, we have some exceptional genin this year, Ibiki said. Well, I'm going to cut this group in half, Anko grinned. Now come along, you cute little genin. You've got 1 hour to make it to training ground 44. If any of you are even a minute late, your team will be eliminated. Ya nay. Anko disappeared in a puff of smoke and there was a stampede to get out of the room, causing Ibiki and the other proctors to chuckle. Equals 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 scene break equals 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 equals. Welcome to my home away from home, training ground 44, affectionately known as the Forest of Death, Anko grinned widely. Naruto had to admit, the backdrop was quite intimidating with the caged forest behind her. The only thing missing was a flash of lightning and clap of thunder. Now the second exam will be a survival battle free for all. Each team will be given one of these scrolls and you will have to get both scrolls and reach the tower in the middle of the forest within 5 days. If you fail to obtain the other scroll in time, or your team isn't complete when you arrive at the tower, you fail. Now, sign these forms, she added, brandishing a bunch of forms. What are these for? Shoji asked timidly. Release forms, Anko shrugged. This way I won't be blamed if any of you die in there. And believe me, there will be deaths. Oh, and if all of your team doesn't sign, you automatically fail the exam. Anko smiled widely at the paling of many of the genins' faces. You know, Anko whispered. Fangirls like you are usually the first one to die. Sakura shrieked as she felt blood run down her cheek as Anko had suddenly thrown a kunai that nicked her cheek before appearing behind the pink-haired genin. A long-haired woman wearing the forehead protector of Kusagakure appeared behind Anko, holding her kunai out with her tongue. You know, you shouldn't sneak up on me if you want to keep that tongue of yours attached to the rest of your body, Anko said nonchalantly. My apologies, Proctor-san, the Kusa ninja said. But the sight of blood got mine racing. I would appreciate it if you would step away from my teammate, Naruto growled as he appeared behind both Anko and the Kusa ninja. While we might be allies with Kusa, as well as Proctor-san, you are a Konoha shinobi, I won't let you harm my teammate. A cage bunshin had appeared behind the Kusa ninja. The clone and the original both had a kunai out and gently pressing against their necks. Anko grinned brightly. All right there, Gaki. No need to get your panties in a bunch, Anko laughed. She released Sakura and holstered her kunai. Thank you, Naruto, Sakura whispered. No problem, Sakura. You're my teammate, Naruto said. But you should keep your guard up. In this type of exam, everyone is our enemy, even the other rookies. All right, Gakis, now get your asses to the gates so we can get this show on the road, Anko shouted once the release forms had been turned in and the scrolls handed out. Team 7 was given Gate 17 and was waiting for the exam to start. Buzz. Team 7 leapt off into the forest of death with nary of sound. The Chunin that had seen them off could only shake his head at the team. About 500 yards from the gate, Team 7 came across a clearing. They huddled together underneath a fallen tree. So what's the plan? Sakura asked. We should set up an ambush near the tower, Sasuke said. If we get there first, we will have the pick of sights and make sure we aren't ambushed ourselves. Naruto wanted to argue with the Uchiha but knew that Sakura would agree with her crush and outvote him. Okay, but first give me the scroll. I have an idea on how to keep it safe and to confuse anyone who tries to find it. What are you talking about? Sasuke asked. Look, we all know that this exam is as much as a protection mission as it is a search and capture one, Naruto explained. But why should we have only one scroll? I can use my cage bunshin to pretend to be extra scrolls, that way we can barter them if we run into a team that we don't want to fight. And they can be used to surprise any teams that do take them. Also, I'll seal the scroll into my pouch to keep it safe from falling out too. Sakura looked to her crush. She thought it was a solid idea to ensure that they kept the scroll safe. It still surprised her that it was Naruto who was suggesting the idea. She knew her blonde teammate had drastically improved since the academy and even more so since their return from the land of waves. What do you mean seal the scroll in your pouch? Sasuke asked. I have been dabbling into Fuinjutsu since we got back from the land of waves, Naruto said. We all have our specialties. Sasuke, you are the ninjutsu and taijutsu expert on our team. Sakura, you are becoming the genjutsu and maybe the Iryo ninjutsu expert, and I'll be the ninjutsu and Fuinjutsu expert. We'll be unstoppable. Sakura and Sasuke had to shake their heads at the enthusiasm pouring off their blonde teammate. All right, Sasuke said, fishing the heaven scroll out of his pouch. We'll trust you with this. I won't let you down, Naruto said. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. In a puff of smoke, 12 clones of Naruto appeared around Team 7. You all know what to do. The clones nodded, and then with another puff of smoke, 12 heaven scrolls were in their places. Naruto picked up the original heaven scroll and sealed it in the storage seal that was sewn in on the inside of his equipment pouch. We'll each take 3 of the clone scrolls. Sakura and Sasuke nodded and picked up their 3 scrolls and placed them somewhere on their persons. All right, let's get moving, Sasuke ordered. Naruto rolled his eyes while Sakura quickly fell into line with the Uchiha heir. Team 7 leapt off into the trees, leaving the clearing behind, and the pair of golden eyes gleaming out of the darkness that had been watching them. The team had traveled only another mile or so deeper into the forest when Sasuke, who was running point, raised a hand. Naruto and Sakura landed next to Sasuke, each of the genin facing outward. Who knew that all that formation training from Kakashi would come in handy? Naruto thought as he kept his eyes peeled for any movement. We're being watched, Sasuke whispered, his eyes gleaming with his Sharingan. Can you tell how many there are? Sakura asked. No, Sasuke grunted. My Sharingan can't distinguish how many chakra signatures there are out there.